why is porn so destructive?
hmm I was hosting a Discord lecture the other day for some of my followers, and a question came up very similar with this particular individual. Of course, I won't name him, but he was, he's trying to quit, but again, he's kind of like silently suffering here, and essentially what the answer is, and my kind of quick, go to was that um, you don't want it enough, and if you were truly, it goes back to your point of paradoxes. Ultimately, we have been conditioned. There is a social conditioning that this is something that should be, permissible in life. It's just part of the human existence. Men watch pornography and jerk off to pornography. That's just something that you have to accept. Why? Nobody's supposed to question that particular aspect. But the reality is, one of the reality is, and one of the parts that helped me quit was knowing that most adult I was going to say, film stars, like it's something to be proud of, but are the product of pedophilia and sexual assault.
Mm.
Most of them, and to watch pornography is to be complicit in that. And I think very long a couple of years ago, like I watched like an interview of like a former performer, and seeing the history of what can literally bring somebody to their knees to a point where they're um doing that kind of creating that kind of content is horrible. It left a real kind of impression upon me. And I can't even watch that material by thinking, oh, there's a woman that's been a product of maybe domestic abuse or violence or rape or pedophilia, and am I really going to sit here and entertain that? Am I really going to do that? So, there isn't a doubt in my mind that, well, there isn't any temptation for me now to go back to something like that. So to go back to your question, the answer is you have to undo this brainwashing that what you are doing is something that you give up. Even the idea is something that you give up has connotations that it's something good, like giving up chocolate, like giving up sugar. Oh, I love my chocolate. I love my sugar. Oh, I don't want to give up my pornography, my sweet, sweet pornography. Get that shit idea out of your head. It's whack. It's absolutely whack. You're not giving up something that is bringing you pleasure. You're giving up something that is a drip feed of poison into your veins, into your mind, right? And I know I'm going pretty hard on this perspective here, but this is something that you're going to have to find out for yourself if you're not there yet. I wasn't there yet, by the way. There was when I first heard of like NoFap and semen retention, I laughed myself to death. I laughed myself to death. Couldn't believe it. Was sharing to my friend. Can you believe these guys are not jerking off? How
Yeah.
weird are they? Not jerking off,
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny how things come around. If you're
Well,
not
I
getting the
think
results you want.
yeah, there's paradoxes in that as well, right? Because I went through a phase where it's just like I was counting the, and this because I see so many different takes on this, so I think this would be a really really good topic. I would count the days, right?
Mm,
Oh, no fat for this many days. And, I think everybody has to walk their own path. I think if you're someone who has totally been blinded by it, maybe that's, for years, maybe that's a path you start out with, just tracking the days, building that. And then, Hawkins has a thing where he says, if you're, what is it, the Heisenberg principle? Might have to do a video on that. It's this idea that, are you familiar with it or?
remind me.
It's,
The name
it's
is coming up, but
Yeah, it's the idea that you don't let's say you have a cookie problem, you eat all the cookies, right? Today you ate 30 cookies. You don't say, I gotta stop eating cookies. You just start writing down how many cookies you're eating, right? And
mhm,
you just mark it. And the idea is the awareness of it. So,
sure.
so you just become aware of what your actions are, write it down, and then you can kind of see it for what it is, without the judgment with it. Because I think guilt and shame can continue to repeat those processes. But the idea is that um, there's so many people. I think they say, "Oh, I'm doing the semen retention." The ego just slips right in. Nat, what do you think? You're better than everybody because you didn't bust a nut in 300 days. Good for you. But if you're proud of that, right? That it's not something to be. It's almost like it's it's just seeing it for what it is. That's really, I think, the goal. It is your life force. It is meant to impregnate and, to create another human being. That's its purpose,
Mhm,
right? And we've taken that and said that's we separate, but we just want the feeling of that and not the responsibility. And it's not even. And now you see all these political things, abortion, anti-abortion. It, we're forgetting what it is, and we're saying no. Forget. We just want the feeling and no
mhm,
responsibility of those things. And I'm going off a little on the tangent now, but to bring it back, maybe to turn this into a question for you, how do you semen retention, all of these things, how do we is it just a matter of experimenting for yourself? Is it practicing? Because I think, at least from what I've seen, I think one of the biggest turnoffs from a lot of people, from the feedback that I'm seeing, is that it becomes almost like a contest. It becomes almost like a club.
mhm,
Part of the no fap club. It's like
mhm,
to me, that's not the purpose. It should be something to experiment and see for yourself and grow in it and be honestly communicating about it and really honestly communicating about it. Because I'm a man, you put up a post all the time. Being horny makes you powerful. Man should be strong. It should have that vital essence. We are meant to be horny, but not always act on it like a brutal animal, not like a dumb man. It's this powerful energy. It's a creative force,
mhm.
and we want to generate that. That we're, So I
Yeah,
guess
no,
no question there, but just to throw it out.
I get the vein of the thought that you're walking down here, but yeah, it's true. I mean, even sometimes, I mean, I know I am heavy on the subject, and sometimes I don't like to be, just because I feel like it turns into that. It turns into a competition. I see the comments all the time, or day 43, day, 90, whatever the case may be. And the main lesson that you need to learn is that this is a tool for you to be able to get to where you want to go. And if you keep I mean, I'm thinking of, I'm not sure if it was Bruce Lee or it was somebody else, but they were saying something to the affinity of, if I'm pointing like at the moon, right?
Oh,
You heard
yeah,
this one,
yeah,
yeah? It's like I'm pointing at the moon. I'm showing you how beautiful, your life is without pornography, how you feel more whole, how you can talk to women better, and all of that. This is all the beauty and the splendor here. But you're focusing too much on me pointing at the moon, right? Like the semen retention and OFAP, whatever you want to call it, it's just the system in order for you to get to where you want to go. But if you keep focus on me, you're going to miss the beauty of making the days count rather than counting the days. And that's also why I don't like to count days, is because it also comes from the perspective of somebody who is waiting to fail. So, I mean, it's like with anything. If you don't smoke, there is no reason for you to keep counting the days that you don't smoke. You don't smoke. That's the identity that you have, you know? So I think you're 100% right. I think there is something kind of cult and club like about it. And, whilst I believe maybe that's somebody's process for getting to where they want to go, and I wouldn't, I would say to even make that step first and foremost, congratulations, you're looking in the right areas that are going to improve your life, but don't get attached to it. Don't get attached. It's a system to get the life that you want to live ultimately. And coming back to truth. That's been a theme in our discussions. It's the truth of self-actualization. And if you're constantly smashing your head against the wall and counting your days, that is going to be a hindrance to that truth. It's another form of attachment. So it's another paradox.
yeah. I was just listening. I believe it was Rob Dass who said that you're closer to God not when you're a horny celibate, but
Mhm,
when you're honest about your lust.
mhm,
And you're honest about where you're at. I feel like, at least for me, that's where I'm at. I went through, and the reason I bring this up, because again, everybody's going to be at a different point. Everybody's going to have different solutions on how they get, to the right way. I think another way, maybe push back on this is, I often hear, if you're anxious or if you're having do it more. See if it brings you fulfillment. Right?
mhm,
It's the way of no way. To say to one person, they say maybe you need to just keep watching porn. Do you feel
mhm.
fulfillment? Are you honest with yourself? Keep doing what you're doing. Is it
Sure.
bringing you the life that you want? Because I think deep down in my heart, knowing my own experience, it doesn't bring that fulfillment, and people know that deep down. And that might not be what other people need to hear. Another person needs tough love, and that's how they're
Sure.
going to respond to it.
No. I like that you brought that up because you know it's another very powerful method to actually bring more consciousness, awareness, and energy to that particular issue. And again, rationalize is bringing you fulfillment. Stephen Carr. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Stephen Carr. He wrote a lot of uh, methods to quit addictive habits. He had one on smoking. And I've never been addicted to smoking, but I just read it because I was curious because it has so many good reviews. And one of the one of the points of the book is that whilst you're reading the book, don't attempt to stop smoking. He says, I want you to keep smoking as you're reading this book, right? I'm just trying to bring your attention awareness to all these very rational and logical points that I will be making whilst you're smoking. And what happens, and I've seen a couple interviews of people who have read the book, is that you begin to tie the pieces of information to that the habit you have, and it you he basically just very very simply, very calmly, very logically just dismantles your chain of logic for why you want to do this. And the last thing you want to do at the end is pick up another cigarette because it just makes no sense. um, and it all starts by again bringing that awareness to what you're doing when you're doing, because most people use these vices as a form of escapism. They don't want to be here, they want to be in the body, they want to get the sensation. I want to feel good, I want to feel good, I want that nicotine
And
hit,
have
I want that dopamine
forgotten
hit.
that it's that they have escaped. It's become a
Yeah,
habit at that point that they don't even realize. So when you say
yeah, they're on
you're doing it to
autopilot, they don't
escape,
even think about it.
yeah,